We all say we want honesty in a relationship. We want that open, transparent connection. But what happens when we actually get it? Well, today we're going to talk about a really powerful, maybe even kind of counterintuitive idea: how to genuinely thank your partner for a hard truth, and why doing that might just be the greatest gift you can give your relationship.
So let's just start with a really honest question. Can you, in that moment, actually feel grateful when your partner says something that makes you, well, uncomfortable? Because the second we hear that kind of feedback, something inside most of us just tightens up, doesn't it?
It could be something that seems so small, right? A simple observation about your tone of voice that just lands with a bit of a thud. Or maybe it's a pattern they've started to notice. A comment about you seeming distracted that feels like it came straight out of nowhere.
Or maybe it's about how they're feeling, that they feel like you're not connecting. And with any of these, all of a sudden, any sense of curiosity we had just, poof, it's gone. And this is what happens inside our heads, isn't it? Our brain immediately switches gears. It goes on the hunt for excuses, for reasons, for counter-arguments. It stops trying to understand where our partner is coming from and just goes into full-on self-protection mode. And just like that, the conversation isn't about connection anymore. It's about self-defense.
But what if we could reframe this whole thing? What if we could learn to see that feedback not as a weapon being aimed at us, but more like a mirror being held up for us? Let's dive into that.
This is such a powerful way to think about it. A long-term relationship, it really does become a kind of mirror. Your partner sees you day in and day out. They see the patterns in your habits, in your reactions, in your tone of voice, things that are practically invisible to everyone else, and let's be honest, sometimes even to ourselves. So here's the fork in the road. We get a choice in how we see that reflection. On one hand, you can see it as a personal attack that immediately puts you on the defensive and, you guessed it, creates distance. Or you can choose to see it as useful information, an invitation to learn something new and to grow together. And that path, that one leads to connection. These two paths go to completely different places. And this is why that choice is so incredibly important. Because when that hard feedback is rejected again and again, you know what happens? Your partner just stops. They stop sharing what they really feel. They start to avoid the difficult conversations. And that silence, those unspoken truths, that's the fertile ground where resentment quietly starts to grow. That's the real danger, so much more than one honest argument.
Okay, so how do we actually make that choice? How do we consciously pick the path that leads to a real dialogue instead of a defensive wall? Let's take a look at what that actually creates. This lays it out perfectly. So, step 1, a hard truth gets shared. Path A is the default for so many of us. You get defensive, things escalate, maybe you argue, and you end up feeling distant. But look at path B. This is the game changer, a grateful or even just an open response. That one simple choice creates psychological safety and actually deepens the connection. And here's a mindset shift I really want you to take with you. When your partner brings up something difficult, it's not a sign that the relationship is failing. It's actually a sign that they still believe it's worth improving. They care enough to risk having a tough conversation. The moment they stop bringing things up, that's when you should really start to worry.
Okay, so this all sounds really good in theory, right? But what do you actually do in that split second when you feel that defensiveness rising up? Well, let's break down a super simple but powerful practice you can start using today. It's called the Honesty Appreciation Practice, and it's just 3 little steps. First, when you feel that spike of defensiveness, just pause. Seriously, just take one deep breath. Second, say these exact words. Thank you for telling me honestly. You're not agreeing with them yet, you're just thanking them for their courage. And third, you shift from defending to learning by asking a simple, clarifying question. And these questions don't need to be some big, complicated thing. Instead of jumping to, that's not true, try something like, can you help me understand what you noticed? Or, when did you start noticing this? These questions literally transform a potential fight into a moment where you can learn together. It shows you're on the same team.
So, what's the whole point of this? What's the end game? Well, it's not just about getting better at arguing. It's about building a relationship that is fundamentally stronger, safer, and way more mature. And let's be really, really clear about something. Acknowledging feedback doesn't mean you're admitting you're a bad person or a terrible partner. Not at all. All it means is that you're showing them you're open to growth. And that openness, That is one of the most powerful and attractive things you can bring to a relationship. It's a pretty simple equation when you think about it. When honesty is welcomed, even the hard-to-hear kind, there's just less space for resentment to take root and spread. You're bringing issues out into the light instead of letting them fester in the dark.
So, I want to leave you with this question to reflect on. The next time your partner offers you some feedback, just pause and ask yourself, am I hearing this as criticism, or can I find the care that's underneath it all? Because often, even the clumsiest feedback comes from a place of love, from a partner who still believes that what you have is worth fighting for.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. That simple, sometimes really difficult, but totally transformative choice to respond with gratitude instead of defensiveness, that is what turns the tension of a hard conversation into the foundation of real, lasting trust.